Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the truth about non-alcoholic wines, the good, the bad, and the need for improvement. But there are some amazing things about non-alcoholic wine. It lets you enjoy yourself and be part of the moment. It lets you have a drink when you're not drinking. And it also lets you get up and about and do your normal thing without having to worry about having a hangover the next day. But here is the thing. They've been bad historically. They've not been something people have wanted to drink. But thankfully, the quality is changing and things are improving. So I'm going to include a whole heap of options, my top 3 favorites at the end for you to get your hands on and try. And just as a bonus, I have written all of them up over at TippleZero.com. So I have drank all of these, reviewed them and written them up in depth for you to be able to try and get across before you buy them. First of all, let's kick off with the pros, the cons, and then talk about the great options you can try. Let's go. Okay, so kicking off with a pro. Now, I love the fact that non-alcoholic wine means inclusion. It means being part of the party, part of the engagement, and being able to share those moments with friends that you wouldn't normally get with an orange juice in your hand, or like I've been many nights out where you're like, I'll just have a soda water, I'll just have another Coke or a lemonade. It just doesn't really work. And I found my time cycling and racing, I didn't want to consume alcohol because I wanted to be able to get up the next day, train as hard as I could, get as many gains as I could, and not be on the start line or not lose a race by an inch or two just because I may have done it because I was consuming alcohol. And I know whatever your reason is for not consuming alcohol or not wanting to, being part of the party and really feeling that inclusion and fostering that inclusion is something that is difficult without a glass in your hand. So non-alcoholic wine, you get a big tick from me on that front, and being able to foster that inclusion and have people come together and enjoy the moment together. This is something I also touched on with Rob Fink, the CEO and co-founder from Big Drop Brewing, when I chatted to him on the podcast. I will leave a link to that episode in the description below, but Rob's main piece was he wanted a glass in his hand or something that he could drink, and whether it was a beer or anything else, that he could be over there at the pub with his colleagues or his friends and just be part of the moment and actually hang around with people and not be questioned, why aren't you drinking? So again, other people have had that same experience and I'm sure you have as well. Next, I want to jump across to a con, and that is the fact it can be sweet, juicy, and just downright tasting like a fruit drink. Now, I know that some of the winemakers do add sugar and grape juice to really pad out the flavor and build it, but for me, when they get that wrong, it really sends things south. And it just means you're not getting the full flavor of a wine. You're getting a watered down, grape juicy thing that is not great for anyone. So unfortunately, historically, that has been a con for me. Okay, jumping back across to a pro. I'm excited for this one because I love mornings, like massively love mornings. So the fact I'm able to talk to people who say that non-alc wine has allowed them to reclaim their mornings is something I love hearing and getting stuck into and hearing all about what they do. Recently, on another episode of the podcast, I chatted with Mary Bernard, who is a Ritual Spirits and an Athletic Brewing Co. ambassador. And she was saying how she's come into yoga and really had a passion for it grow out of the fact that she's able to be up about super early in the morning and has really grown her practice of yoga based of the fact that she's been able to reclaim her mornings. And a few other people I've chatted to as well have had this similar experience where they're out for a surf, out for a run, and have really started to grow what they can do every day because they have a few extra hours. So for me, that one is super exciting because it resonates with me right at the core of who I am. So I love the fact that people are up, about, and active and doing it with non-alc wines. Okay, so on to another con. Now, unfortunately, body and mouthfeel are the age-old trade-off that happens when you remove alcohol. Often removing the alcohol is also going to take with it that whoosh of mouthfeel that you get from alcoholic versions, and also that leaves a little bit of a hole, a little bit of that gap like we mentioned. So you're often going to find that some of the options do lack weight and do lack the ability to satisfy that level that we're kind of used to from a traditional alcoholic wine. Now, the next piece that I really like, and one of the biggest pros for me, is that it is a low calorie option. Now, while there is maybe a little bit more sugar in each glass, you're going to find the fact that there is no alcohol in there, the calories are going to be way lower than they otherwise would be. Now, you don't have to know a whole lot about nutrition to know that 1 gram of alcohol has around 7 calories in it. So if you are losing the alcohol, you lose a multitude of calories. Okay, so the final con for me is the fact that you do not have the heat or the bitterness that you get from alcohol in a range of other wines. Now, if you've had a really great Chardonnay or a really big and bold Shiraz, you're gonna know that the weight and the mouthfeel that comes from the heat and the bitterness are just next level. They really make the drink. Unfortunately, you're gonna miss that on the non-alc versions. But the good news for me and what I feel is really coming down the line is these are going to be included because they've just started to be rolled out into the non-alc ready to drink options like the gins and tonics that are made up with a range of other ingredients that give you that mouthfeel. So I feel like these are going to be added into wines and I'm hopeful that we're going to see them coming down the line. So for now, unfortunately, that weighted mouthfeel from the heat and the bitterness that you get from those alcoholic versions unfortunately isn't quite there. Okay, so that sums up the pros and the cons. On the pros, you have all of the inclusion and the togetherness that non-alcoholics foster. You then have the reclaiming your mornings option and you also get the lower calories. So they are my top 3 reasons I love non-alc wines and that's why I choose to drink them. And the 3 cons that I just mentioned, as you would have heard, is the sweet and sometimes juicy profile, which is just like having a sweet drink. The body and depth is often a miss in some of them and you do not get the heat and profile you get from an alcoholic version. Okay, so now that we've covered off the pros and the cons, I want to talk to you about my 3 favorite non-alcoholic wines and maybe a few bonuses in there because 3 is just not enough. So the first one is a range and that range comes from Vernada. So Vernada have my favorite sparkling non-alcoholic wine and that is the Vernada Crispy Chardonnay. I'll put a card up here for you to check out that video and I've done a bit of a review on that. So check out all the information and don't forget the link to the review that I've done over at tipplezero.com is in the description below. So check that all out. They also have a non-alcoholic rosé made from Tempranillo, which is an amazing non-alc option as well. I'll also throw a card up here for you to check that one out as well. Now there is another option from Vernada, which is an Airing Gold. So that's made with Airing grapes and it is a cracker as well. So those 3 come in at my number 1 spot for a non-alcoholic version of sparkling wine. The next one comes from Gießen. Now Gießen make an amazing Sauv Blanc that has exactly 0 alcohol in it. It has a really great weighted mouthfeel, but also gives you those crispy and fruity flavors of passion fruit, citrus, and freshness. So again, Gießen, I'm gonna put the review down in the description below for you to check out that review and also find out where to buy it. So that is my number 2, the Gießen Zero Sauv Blanc. Okay, so number 3 is the Wolf Blass Shiraz. Now that has the best mouthfeel and weight that I have found in a non-alcoholic red, and it has a really warm and deep texture that has some oaky notes in there and is spices as well. So for me, that's my favorite non-alcoholic red wine. I will also throw the link in the description so you can read that over at tipplezero.com. And just because there's 3 is not enough, I will give you 2 more bonuses. The Oddbird Sparkling, so that is a beautiful sparkling with a similar yet a little yeastier note than the Vernada in there. And the last one will be another red wine and that is by Funky Monkey and it is their Pinot. And that one sacrifices a bit of body and depth, but the fact is there is very low sugar in it. And having made a few Pinot vintages, I found that it has some really great flavors, that building block flavor of what a Pinot is. So while you're not gonna find a full depth and profile in there, you are gonna find some really great flavors that are often a little bit lighter and hopefully get you part of the way to enjoying a non-alcoholic Pinot. Okay, so that is all for me on my favorites. You're gonna find the Vernada range, the Gießen, the Oddbird, the Wolf Blass Shiraz, and the Funky Monkey down in the description below for you to check them all out. I will put all the links there for you, so check out the other videos I've got over here, and I will chat to you guys soon.